Welcome to an episode of Founder in the Chair. My guest today, it started with a £20 bet and nearly cost him his life. Behind the smiles, he was battling a gambling addiction that spiralled into a £250,000 worth of debt. And in a community where no one talks about it, he chose to speak out. Today, I'm sitting with Harj Gahley, founder of Soch Care, charity breaking the silence around addiction, mental health and stigma in South Asian communities. But what makes Harj's story powerful isn't just what he went through, it's what he's choosing to do with it, because he believes the biggest barrier in our community isn't just the lack of support, it's the fear of being seen asking for it. So if you've ever felt the pressure to keep it all together, to protect the family name, to suffer in silence, this conversation is for you. Welcome, Harj.
Welcome.
Thank you for being here.
It's been such a pleasure. And from the get-go, from you starting Founder in the Chair to where you are now, I just want to say huge congratulations, because some of the guests you've had on and the journey that you've been on too, it's nice to bring this conversation to limelight, because I think it's something that's needed.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can change some perspective on what that looks like in the business world.
Yes. So founders are normally talking about their business, etc. And I know you've always talk about your gambling addiction and what you went through. But if there's someone listening and they want to go out there and help the world and fulfill a purpose that they really want to do, and I know you show up so much, whether it's good, bad, ugly, you're still there. What's it like to set up what you did, what you do today?
So from someone like you said, I've talked enough about my gambling addiction and how it led me into 250k debt. But that word you said, purpose, because I think for such a long time I sought a lot of happiness. Then I found happiness in my family. Then I looked for something else deeper, which is, people say, peace. I found peace through my own humility and my own personal development journey, shall we say. But I wanted to look for something more deeper, and that's that word purpose. I think that's something that a lot of people are asking. What's my purpose in life? What's my purpose in life? I asked the same question to myself, and there's a famous saying, sometimes you don't have to look elsewhere apart from under your nose. And for me, I realized my purpose, everything that I had to go through my gambling addiction, the breakdown of relationships, the breakdown of finances, going to the unthinkable, but coming out the other end, that led me to go to something back to Sikhi, back to my own religion, which is the word Seva. But through the word Seva, I had to find what am I serving? And we talk about the word hukum. And that's divine right, or your God's given purpose. So for me, my God's given purpose was very, very simple, was to help people that are struggling in silence, whether it's gambling, substance misuse, alcohol, to open up about what they're going through and then come out the other end and hopefully start living the life they truly deserve. But I couldn't do that just through a limited company. I thought, how do I serve through this? And what I'd looked at was, well, there are these charities out there, whether it's Turning Point, For Trust, some of the other organizations that are out there. But what I realized was, what's that missing gap? Then I had to look back at my journey. And missing gap was really simple, which is when I went into the NHS and I showed up my first therapy session, the therapists were all white. The people on Zoom, because this is in a pandemic, so I couldn't do one-to-one. I was thrown into group sessions on Zoom. They were all white. Now, I'm not saying that, addiction discriminates, but when you're in a room where you don't feel like someone understands you, the cultural differences and all those sort of things, I didn't feel comfortable in that setting. So I decided, well, how am I really going to get the help I need? And that sparked the flame within me. And that's what I decided. Well, I've learned enough about the business background, which I'm sure we're going to go into anyway. But I wanted to do something through humility, through humanity, and to serve. And that's why I set up a charity. But there are different statuses in charity, from a CIC to a CIO. And where I am today, so we went literally formally live in August last year. And since then, we've had a massive impact.
You have. We're seeing you everywhere. So you just mentioned CIC and CIO. So if there's someone listening and they don't know the difference, can you just briefly tell us?
Yeah, so it's a bit like having a limited company and a PLC.
Mm-hmm.
A CIO very much runs like a PLC.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is there's a lot more governance. This is what Soch Care is. Soch Care is CIO. Because they don't do anything like they used to do before, which is you're just a charity.
Mm-hmm.
So a CIO means that you are bound by trustees. So there are different ways you can do it. But the foundational version is if there are any things that you want to do or any decisions that need to be made as a director, unless it's been signed off by your board of trustees, you can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they're there is to make sure the founder, the team, the operations, logistics, wherever it is making sure it's aligned with the vision and that they're not misusing the money, misusing the finances, that they're still serving the purpose. So with a CIO, you're bound by trustees.
Okay.
A CIC, which is also known as a community interest company, it's run like a limited company.
Okay.
You submit accounts to HMRC, you go to Companies House to register, and the only difference is that you have to have a board of directors. You can have one, but typically they say you need to have three. The reason they say three is because they want to make sure that when you're utilizing that money, that there is a process or governance in place, that there's not one person making or calling the shots, that people are interjecting. But the difference here is one is seen as a full charity, a CIO, and a CIC is known as I would say, a sustainable or a common society project. So if you've got something that you want to do, but you want to get into charity status really quickly, CIC is very, very simple, which means that there's not a lot of red taping. You still are bound by regulations, but you run it like a limited company, but you just have a charity status attached to it, which means if you go to grants and funders, they're more likely to fund you as opposed to a limited company.
Oh, okay. So Harj, everyone says they want to give back one day, but very few actually do or build a charity. So I know you said you wanted to give back, and it's Hukam, it's Seva, but what's the reality of setting one up in the UK? So you said you're a CIO. What's it been like? What's the journey been like?
So the first instance with a limited company, you can set that up straight away, right? Whereas the CIO, it took from February to submitting the application with the Charity Commission until August.
Wow.
To actually getting it live and activated. And that process meant they wanted to see data, they wanted research, they wanted to make sure that there's due diligence on the person running the company, on the organization. So with a charity commission, they do so much more due diligence on this. So it's not an easy thing where it's just a case of, I've got an idea, I want to do a charity status, I want to do a CIO, I want it done set up tomorrow. The reality is, because I've been someone that's been in the limited world, I sort of could do Companies House, I could do, the accounts, etc. So if I really wanted to, I could have done a CIC. The reason I stepped into CIO, and it takes me back to a conversation I had with someone else, is because I wanted to hold myself to a higher standard. Because someone once said to me, they said, well, a CIO, you're going to have to do a lot more governance, you're going to have to do a lot more documentation, a lot more policies. Isn't that going to be so much more admin? Isn't that going to stop you from veering away from actually helping people? My answer to that was no. Actually, it holds me to a higher level of accountability and higher level of standards. Because if I want to make sure I'm doing this properly, I need to make sure that the foundational stuff has been built correctly. And we see that with business. How many entrepreneurs or solopreneurs have we both come across that they haven't even built the foundationals properly, and then come a year down the line or even 3 years, they're nowhere to be seen. That's the same thing here. And I've seen that within the CIC perspective as well. So the reality is, setting a limited company or a CIC and CIO, they're all very, very similar. They all have a purpose or a mission behind it. The only difference between a limited and a CIO status is that the amount of paperwork that comes with it, the amount of people that you have to speak to get this through is a lot more. So I would say if you are going to go down the charity status route, meaning a CIO, it's going to be a lot harder. It might take a couple more months, but that doesn't mean it should stop you. Because if your purpose is bigger than your happiness, no matter what you would deem in life, you'll always push yourself to doing that very thing. Now, if you want to get something up going really quickly, a CIC can be done within 3 to 5 days. And that's very simple. Like I said, just go to company's house, register your name, get a domain, the usual stuff.
Yeah.
And then get going, which means that if you want to go to National Lottery Community Fund, or you want to go and get grants, whether it's the King's Trust or, you know, other organizations out there like the NHSE or OHID, you can do that. But when you're a limited company, they might turn around and say, well, no. And I've had this recently where we applied for a grant and there were some limited companies that have been in this gambling prevention space for years, didn't get it because they're a limited company.
Oh, wow.
That's, I mean, you're talking, these are some of the pinnacles of like Gamban. Gamban are a fantastic tool which self-excludes, and they have been pivotal to helping people through transitioning and making sure they've got secure access to making sure they don't bet. They didn't get funding, and these guys are big hitters in the place. So what it taught me was that it doesn't matter how big you are or how small you are. And unfortunately also within that system, you also know how to understand how to write in terms of the way that the funders want to know what you're doing. So what I've learned is there's one thing, you know, in the vision, your mission and purpose and how you want to achieve it. But when your grants and funders want to know, it's a whole different case. Because in my head, I knew what I wanted to do, I wanted to say, but sometimes when you try to put that on paper and trying to get that across to your funders, it's a lot more harder. Whereas a limited company, once you've got an idea and you've got a fantastic product, it's now just selling to the individual consumer, right?
So how did you get it across then, the way it needs to be in order to get funding?
Through a 40-page document. And anyone that knows who I am knows I don't believe in having big documents.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that whole process. I had to learn, oh, bloody hell, man. I've got these funders that want to know who I am, the operations, you know, what your operational aspects are going to be. You know, what is your, you know, what they call it? Sorry, it's caught in my head. But it's your team, your interest rates, your insurance rates, you know, your KPIs, you know, everything they want to know. They want to know everything down to a T, because what they're trying to make sure is if we give you this money, we want to make sure that every single penny is accounted for.
Of course.
And which I get.
Yeah.
But then also you see some other organizations out there that are not even doing best practices, but yet they get millions and hundreds of millions of funding. And it makes you question yourself, because I had this recently. I was like, bloody hell, I'm not, you know, I'm someone that takes rejection quite hard. But I always have the saying, if you chuck enough shit at the wall, something will stick. So at the moment, I'm chucking a lot of shit at the wall. Hopefully something will stick.
Yeah.
But right now, everything we're doing so far is self-funded.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Think about it, you know, from someone that was in the business world.
Yeah.
And what I learned was when you're running a business, you also have to run a charity like a business too. Just because you're charity doesn't mean people need to take advantage of you and get everything for free, even though we're providing all our services for free. But in order to run a charity like a business, you have to think like a business owner too. Like, what's the product or service? How am I going to market it? Who's my demographic? Who's my target market? What areas am I going to go out for geographically? Also, operationally, logistically, how am I going to get a team? How am I going to build this out? So in order to build a successful business, a charity follows the same suit.
So Harj, if you're self-funding at the moment, obviously you're a family man, you have bills just like everybody else. So you're speaking in lots of places. I see you all the time. Do you get paid for any of it?
In terms of speaking,
Yeah.
some I do and some I don't. So if you're an organization where you've got a lot of money, sometimes I'm just very honest with them, and I say to them, look, what is the purpose of this conversation? Whether it's a keynote, whether it's a round table, wherever it might be. Now, if you're in politics, you know, and you're doing government talks, it's very likely that you're not going to get paid because you're doing an act of humanity, which unfortunately comes past the parcel. Now, if you're corporate organizations, they have budgets where they would say, well, look, we have. It could be £500, £1,000. You know, my fees can range anything from 1,000 to 3,000 if I'm working with corporate organisations. But once that money comes through, that's also then to feed into the charity, pay the bills. But having said that, I was quite fortunate where I had a business beforehand, and I managed to exit some of that money from there and liquidate some of that, which then has now allowed me to fund this purpose. So since August last year, since Soch Care was formulated and formed, we have been self-funding, and we run on 3 pillars. The first pillar is awareness and prevention. So let me give you a bit of background on what Soch Care actually is. So Soch Care is a UK charity that provides free therapy, support and guidance from anyone from the South Asian or ethnic minorities that's struggling with gambling, substance misuse and alcohol. Why have I done it for free? Well, it takes me back to my belief systems. When people used to go back to our gurus and say, listen, I'm struggling, I need your help. Now, I get there's people watching this that they're life coaches, they're energy healers, they do so much out there. I'm not taking anything away from them, but my belief is that if our gurus never asked penny from anyone else that wanted support, who am I to do the same thing too? So I've realized that I want this to be free because I know people feel that money could be a pain barrier for some of these people. I remember some of the people I'm working with, they're on housing, they're on benefits, they're homeless, they don't have the finances, but they want the help. So that's why we made it free of charge. And then when someone comes in, because first one is awareness and prevention. So we go out there, we do workshops. So since we have gone live, since August last year, we have trained over 2,000 GPs, frontline professionals, public health, local authorities, other VCSEs, other charity organizations, corporate organizations, because we want them to understand what is and how harmful can these addictive habits be, but more so from a South Asian perspective, those cultural differences, those societal differences, those community differences, linguistically, religiously. So they need to understand how to support someone. So we do workshops, we do training, but the one that is my bread and butter, which I love and which I believe I'm called to, is helping people, therapy. So when someone comes in, we do it in a 3-phase prong. So phase 1 is to know, like, and trust. So we have an intervention, and I want that individual to reach out to us, whether it's through seeing one of our podcasts. If they're watching this and something connects with them, I want them to feel like that they can open up, because when you see someone that looks like you, that sounds like you, that comes from a similar background to you, you're more likely to go, perhaps I can chat to this person because they may understand what I'm going through, or they might understand those family pressures or the family dynamics or those cultural dynamics that they're going through. Once they speak to me, I'm able then to allow them to feel safe, allow them to feel heard and seen, but also show them that if they want to come out of this, here is the route, which then we take them into therapy, which can take up to 12 weeks. Some people, one conversation, they've stopped. Some people, it could be 4 conversations. Sometimes it could be, well, I need more than 12 weeks. I need another 12 weeks. It's all dependent on the individual. But once they come out of that, and here's what I found in my own journey, once you go into NHS, or you see some of these individual or other organizations, once you do the therapy, that's it, they stop. But what we wanted to do was do aftercare, because the healing doesn't stop there, right? And I always say this, and if you're watching this, if you're struggling with an addiction, don't allow the addiction to be the enabler of the problem. The real issue comes from deep within, and ask why that pain is driving you to go into those habits, because that will tell you more about your own circumstances and your patterns of behaviors and the lifestyle that you're living, as opposed to the lifestyle that you're not living. That's what I found in my own journey. And when people realize that, damn, there's this that's going in my life, there's this happening in my life, there's these people in my life, or there's these environments in my life, there are these things or patterns of behaviors that are making me do this, because I say make me very, very strongly, because addiction is a disease and we're not born with it, but we are taught, which also means that if we've learned these behaviors, we can unlearn it. So I presuppose that, well, once we unlearn some of those habits and you're in a strong place, we want you then to go, right, how do I rebuild trust with my loved ones? Are you in a job? Well, how do I help you elevate your career? Or are you looking for a job because you're out of a job? How do we help you with your debts? But also, if you're homeless, how do we help you get back into housing? Because that's where we're working quite closely with local housing, local authorities, public health, local councils, other organizations. So this is not just a one-person approach. This is a Soch Care's approach, and we've built up fantastic relationships and collaborations with other organizations, whether you're a tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, which I can talk about anyway. But what I've realized is that Comes back to that famous quote.
Mm.
If you want to go far, go together. But if you want to go quick, go alone. And I realized that going quickly, I don't want to go alone. I wanted to go with other people that have a similar mindset, that have a similar vision, but that can also springboard Soch Care to where it needs to be. And what I've realized when I look at some of the successful businesses, it's never a one-person approach. Just look at some of the biggest organizations. It's not one person driving it. They have teams, they have multiple teams, they have different offices, they're global. They've got hundreds of thousands of people. But I've taken that same concept and I'm thinking to myself, if I want to grow this into a national organization and hopefully global, which I know it will be, because I'm really getting people from Dubai, Australia, America, Canada reaching out. I'm going to take this to people that need it. But in order for me to take it to the people I need it, I also need to understand logistically how it runs, operationally how it runs, the team, marketing, the people. This is not a Harj product. This is a Soch Care product, which means that when I die and I leave this world, that this will still carry on. I believe my two biggest value. My first value is God. My second value is legacy.
You are definitely going to leave a legacy. So you've built in both worlds, business and charity. So you mentioned earlier that you had a business. Which one is actually harder and why?
If I had to pick which is the hardest one between a business, meaning a limited company, or a charity, hands down, a charity.
I knew you'd say that.
Hands down, because I thought it'd be easy. I thought you set up a business, a charity, you go into your funders, you tell them what you want, they'll give you money, and then you can go and do that. Was I wrong? Because I realized that in order to build that, I need to build stronger governance. I need to make sure I've got a good trustee team. I also need to make sure that credit checks are done on every single individual, not just credit checks, DBS checks. Now, how many organizations from a limited company get people into their business but haven't done a DBS check?
Loads.
Millions.
Yeah, probably most of them.
Yeah, so we had to do DBS checks. We've had to do background checks. So there's so much more that goes into a due diligence, even before you got someone else in. Whereas before, when I ran a limited company, it was a case of, I like you, I like what you do. I just like that vision. Same thing with the charity, but with a charity, you have to do the DBS. You have to make sure that registered properly. You have to make sure that they're doing their onboarding properly and everything else that comes with it. So I know that might annoy some business owners, but the truth is that with a business, if you've got a great product and you've got a great idea, you can go to market really quickly. With a charity, it's not. You have to make sure, even before you're taking that service or product to market, that the due diligence that comes with it, have you got your public liability insurance, your employee liability insurance, your indemnity insurance? Well, hold on, there's another insurance. You've got legal insurance, because especially when you're working with vulnerable individuals, you need to make sure that you're covered. And I had that recently where I had to spend £1,000 on a legal case because when I tried taking my own life, the insurance company came after me for 20 grand. And I saw what it cost. So you've got legal insurance that comes with it, but also you've got board of trustees insurance as well. So the insurance that comes with it is a lot more. So even before you come out the get-go, you're like, hold on, you're just bleeding money. And that's not what I was used to. I was used to having an idea, taking it to market, getting sales in. Once I got sales in, let's market that, let's amplify that, let's build that out and take it from one team to what I built, which is a 90-man team from the security guarding world.
Wow.
And then, but it was done quite quickly. And I didn't have a lot of red tapes. Whereas here, it's a case of, if I need to do this, because at the same time, part of me doesn't want to, and when people say, this is a me problem here, by the way, which is when people say to me, how can we support your charity? What can we do to support you? I'm like, listen, you don't need to, everything's for free. Sometimes I'm like, well, perhaps if that person could just pay it forward. And that's what I realized, that was a me problem. So recently I had to set up a whole sort of system in place to say, look, what we provide is free of charge. But if you want to pay it forward, or you feel like you want to, contribute, whatever it is that you want to, then here's a link, you can do it. But that's not pressure on you. And that's something that I'm not used to. I'm used to being in those boardrooms, in those situations where I'm trying to pressurize people, because right at the end of the day, I'm like, I've got bills to pay, I've got this to pay. But when I'm doing it from this perspective, I still got bills to pay, but I'm making sure I'm doing it with more humility and more humanity, because I don't want to be in a position where people feel like they're taken advantage of. And hopefully I don't feel like I've done that with people. But at the same time, I also realized that I have to run like a business too. So, which is why I'm going and spending more time on these grants and funders, where recently I applied for 2 grants. One was for prevention, and that was to help build out a team so we can get more people to do workshops, more people to do training, more therapists to come and help more people, more aftercare team, more triage team, everything that comes with a business. And I got rejected. And it was hard for me because when you've got something so purpose driven and you know that even like I said to you before, training 2,000 people, the amount of people that we've had, people coming from Instagram, TikTok, believe it or not, LinkedIn, or wherever it might be, that are saying, this is me, or this is someone that's close to me is going through this. We've supported over 250 people into recovery. I say we, right now, it's me and a couple other people that are volunteering.
Right.
But that takes a big toll on an individual. And I don't feel burnt out, but I feel like I need to do more. And sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel like no matter how many videos I post, how much I show up online, how many conversations I have, how many times I'm up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning talking to people, I just don't feel like I'm doing enough. And sorry.
It's okay.
I don't know why I get emotional, because when you pour so much into something that is purpose driven for you, you just want to do more of it. And you feel like that funding could have helped so much more people. That could have taken this to another level, and that could have pivoted. And so when I look at this, the funding that could help so many more people to do this. And that's why I get so emotional about it, because I'm so driven by that purpose that I just want to help more people. But I have to be realistic as well. I've got a family, I've got a wife, I've got my own bills, I've got things I've got to do. And I've been in that position before where I've not over leveraged in finances, but over leveraged in my health. And that's deteriorated. I don't feel the health has deteriorated, but sometimes I go mad thinking at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like last night, I've got massive shoulder pain. Now people like to take an ibuprofen, but the healers in the world will say, yeah, you're carrying a lot of weight in your shoulders, which I feel like I am. But I'm up to like 2 o'clock last night thinking about, where am I going to do this next? Right now I've got limited capacity to try and drive this forward, but I don't want this to be like a limited company where it falls flat on its ass within a year, which I know it never will, because when you've got such a powerful belief in what you're doing, don't worry, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, will pay its dividends in resources. So I spoke to someone recently and they said, Harj, just think of it this way. The work you're doing now is paying it forward for the future investments to come. And what that meant for me was the amount of people that have really received the benefits of this through what we're doing. It doesn't matter about when I was in my limited company, putting security guards in or getting someone in to use their SaaS business. The feeling that you get from helping someone, you heard about oxytocin, which is that love hormone, but the biggest reward I ever got was coming out the other end of my addiction, but like you said at the beginning, using it to fuel my purpose. So when I was chasing a jackpot, I felt like I was being rewarded for something of the self-worth I was looking for. And I didn't even have a bloody number for it. I was chasing this number, but I didn't have a number for it. Now I'm chasing helping people. And I have this number, which is every year, and I said this, I was like, I want to be able to reach 1 million people in 1 year. I've reached that in less than 8 months.
Well, have you?
Well, think about August, I went live.
Wow.
The amount of the videos that have gone up, the amount of people that reach out, even on the way here, had 5 people reach out over last night till today. Because you got, remember, it depends your addiction, no matter what happens. And this is the great thing about showing up. And like you said, about showing up in consistency. This doesn't matter if you're in a business or in a CIO or a chat, wherever it may be. The fact that you're showing up consistently with that same message. And I remember my wife at the beginning, she goes, bloody hell, you're saying the same thing again and again and again and again and again. But the truth is that when you're running a business or a charity, you have to keep saying the same thing again and again and again and again and again, because you don't know when that person is going to hear what they need to hear, and when it's going to hear or reach that person. Someone's been following me for the past 3 years and only recently reached out. So it shows the power of when you got something so purpose driven that it talks to your heart, and when you get emotional about this. And I always say, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not your why. So for me, I know what my why is, and whether it was a limited company, I would have still done it. Whether it's the CIO, I would have done it. However, the reason I had to go into a charity, because some of the funders like OHID, which means for Office for Home Information Disparities, NHSE, whether it's the DHSE or the DCMS, the Department of Culture, Sports and Media. So some of these governmental people that look after these big grants, I had to understand how that worked. But what they don't do is they don't fund limited companies.
Okay.
So that's why I had to shift from going from a limited into a charity. And that's because if I wanted to get grants from them and use it in a way that those taxpayers are actually being used in a right way and not being used for some crappy old bollocks, which I know it has been done. If you look at how the government's been with the pandemic and everything that's going on, I want to be used for something that helps people, not just gets whittled away.
So if someone's listening right now and Soch Care needs help, how can they help you to get to that? Help 1 million people every year. How can we help you, Harj?
The truth is, if you really want to help Soch Care and you're watching this, show up in the videos, like, comment, share to someone that needs that support. Because the more people we help, the more then we can take that to some of the funders and grantors and say, look, this isn't just we're saying it. This is actually people that are coming to us, because the data never lies. When you've got data in black and white, it's hard for a funder or a grantor or someone in the government to say, that's just you saying it. So if you're watching this, reach out, ask for help. Because when we get those numbers, we can also help and help more people by getting more fund money. But the other way we can do it is, if you're watching this and you want to support the charity, this is now me taking my me problem into a me perseverance, which is, if you want to help, there's links on our website, there's links on my social media, there's links on the Soch Care part where you can donate. Even if it's as little as £1, £1 can go to a long way. It's up to you what you want to donate, up to you what you want to give, and pay it forward. So from my heart, if you feel like you want to donate, it means so much to me and the people that's going to be on the other side of receiving that. Or the flip side of it is, if you want support, you can reach out.
I see so many of your videos, but you never actually ask. I don't think I've ever heard you ask.
Never.
This
is
is
the first time.
There's a link where you can actually donate some money and help others. And yeah, you don't ask.
And it's a hard thing, because I've always been someone that has been self-provided. I've always been the person that has always done something, whether it's going out and paying for a meal, whether it's even between us where we've been out, I'm like, no, you're not putting your purse out.
Yeah.
And part of me is just...
So when we go lunch today, I'm paying.
We'll see. But ultimately, I think because I'm such a giving person, and I remember I made this promise to myself, which is, I want to make sure the service that we're providing is totally free of charge. And I did that at the cost of what that free of charge means. So what I'm saying to people is, there's not pressure on them to put money for our way. And I'm fortunate where we ran the fashion brunch event recently, where we raised over £3,000. Now that £3,000 is going to be used to run local meetup groups. Southall, Slough, we're talking in Reading as well, because a lot of people are saying, Harj, we've heard about Gamblers Anonymous, we've heard about Alcoholics Anonymous, but what about people that are from our community? So bring the small beer, bring the jar. Ultimately, this is a place where you can open up. You don't need to be feared about what people are going to think of you. People are going to be in a similar boat. And it's just not addictions as well. It'll be anyone that's feeling lonely, anyone that wants to be around other people, anyone that's struggling with any mental health challenges.
And it's not just for men, is it?
We're going to be hopefully doing one for women's only, because I think women might feel, from our own research and for people we speak to, they feel a little bit intimidated when they're around other men. So we want to create a safe space for just women only. And then we want to create a safe space for men only too. So that's the big goal, where we're trying to get more people and trying to run more of these. And hopefully we can forget the Andy Man's Club, forget the Gamblers Anonymous, forget the Alcoholics Anonymous and all those ones. We have Soch Care meetups, and I wanted this to go national. But I wanted to be national with a local approach. So we really had people in Harrow saying, yeah, we're happy to support you. And I want this to be a proper community-led initiative where, because I think we've missed that. I think we as a community have forgotten that we're here to help each other, support each other and lift each other. Where I feel in our community, how many times have we, or have you experienced people stabbing you in the back, belittling you, pushing you to the side, telling you're not good enough? And that's happening with our own community. But I want this to be a place where it doesn't matter what other people think of you. This is how you show up for yourself. And when I was in a place where I wanted to show up for myself, and I could be like, well, hold on, I'm around like-minded people. Because I did show up to a Gamblers Anonymous. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying it didn't align to me. And you could come up to one of the Soch Care's things, it might not align, and that's fine. What we will do is we'll do our very best to put you in a place where it does feel aligned to you. Because right now you could come there and you could be what is known as a tier 4 person. A tier 4 person is literally on the edge. They have those thoughts, they have the ideations, they have lost the will, but they don't know what to do next. But the great thing here is we've got access to where they can get access to free rehabilitation, in-house rehabilitation. All they need to do is just reach out. And the great thing here is because we built that relationship, we've built those collaborations, and that's what's been working in the background. So when I don't show up and I'm not constantly online, it's because I'm doing more in the background. Because logistically, operationally, people don't see what I'm doing behind the teams. Even with my wife is there writing emails with me, not chat GPTing everything, because I think there's more of a human element, because you can feel when someone's writing a personal email to yourself.
Absolutely.
I want to go back to the old cool days and write something where it's actually written from someone.
Yeah.
But when those emails reach those individuals, they can feel like there's a human person behind it. And that's what I've always believed in. I always believed in a human-centered approach, whether it's talking to person face-to-face, whether it's emailing, calling, however it may be. I understand AI is a fantastic tool, but let's not forget we're humans as well.
And that's, so when I first, I met you at a firewalk, but when I did your course, Speak with Impact, you really do speak from the heart. Yeah.
It's interesting because I haven't run one for a little while, and a few people have said to me recently, when are you going to do your next one? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm going to bring it back, but it is that. It's how do you take what your God-given purpose is? How do we draw it out from you? But get you to talk without any notes, and you experience this too. And anyone else that was there experienced it too, because when you're around friends and you're in a coffee environment, you don't need notes to ask about what you're going through, about what your challenges are, or what you love in life.
Just speak from the heart.
You speak from the heart. And that's what we're trying to get people to tune into. And also, I believe in a time right now, with everything that's going on in the world, that there's a spiritual warfare. And I want people to realize that they can be the next Mother Teresa, or the next Malcolm X, or the next Nelson Mandela. Because I feel we're missing those individuals right now. But I have started to see hope of some people showing up with that same limelight. And that's what Speak with Impact is about. It's not about trying to drive more money into your business or that sort of side. It's about taking what you have been through and leading with purpose, but speaking from the heart.
So there might be another Speak with Impact.
There could be.
There could be.
It could be.
We have to follow you, and
stay
I'm
tuned.
sure you will bring something up. What's something you've had to unlearn from the business world to lead effectively in the charity space?
The biggest thing I've had to unlearn from the business world into the charity world is that in order to drive your humility forward and your purpose forward, that you're going to need to ask other people for help. That's the biggest thing I've encompassed. Whereas a business, you can do things off the get-go. It doesn't matter this and this. The same thing with the charity. But what I realized is that it's going back to that old adage of that African proverb. If you want to go far, go together. So what I realized was I'm an individual. So when people reached out to me and I was at max capacity, what do I do? Well, who else is out there? Who else can support what I'm doing? And when I'm in a limited company, you tend to find that when you ask other people for help, there's always this, what's in it for them? But within the charity space, everyone has this line vision of how do we help support each other, which is not what's in it for them. It's like, how can we support? And I think that's something that the business world needs to learn and operate on. So before the beza, the money, how do you help with your purpose first? People before profits. That's the biggest thing I've had to unlearn from the business world of putting profits before people. Now putting people first after profits.
I've got one last question for you. Everyone these days is, I want to find my purpose. So obviously you found your purpose. You're going to leave a legacy. But there's someone listening and they're like so confused and they really want to find it and they almost overthink it. Or they'll copy what somebody else is doing and think, oh, I can do that. How can they really find their purpose?
If you're watching this and you want to find your purpose in life, there are 3 ways you can do that. And if you're listening to this and you answer yes to any one of these 3 things, you can live your life of purpose. So the first thing is, what are you fantastic or great at academically? I know people that are great at finance, accounts, admin, bookkeeping, sales. If you've got a skill set that you've academically learned through your profession, I've seen people out there online that teach people how to run a successful business, but understanding your accounts. I've seen people out there talking about how sales is a fantastic tool to grow their business. I've heard about people talking about how they can understand logistically AI. That's a big thing right now. So if you've got a skill set that you are phenomenally great at and it comes easy to you, that could be a purpose. The second purpose is, what do people come up to you and ask you for advice on? Parenting is one. That's something that I know people do very, very well. I know some people that are marriage experts, divorce experts, relationship experts, because people come up to them for advice. People come up to certain other people know is property. You own quite a few properties, or you feel like you're good at investing money. So if someone is looking at you and you feel like there's a common thread that people keep asking for advice on, tune into that, because that could be your purpose. And the third one is, if you've gone through any adversity in your life, grief, addiction, loss, pain, and you've come out the other end, because the truth is, people don't want to be speaking to people when they're in the similar pain. They want to be speaking to people that have come out the other end and that are doing something, or maybe want to do something with it. But that might be the thing that might shift for you right now. You're thinking, well, if I've suffered grief, how do I navigate that? And am I in a place right now where I've learned to live with grief? I think I know more about perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, and endometritis than most men out there, because the amount of women I speak to. But if you've been through that, but why would you not take what you've been through and go, well, how can I serve other people with it? And it could be little tips, little advice. Here's what I've gone through, because there's nothing more powerful. Forget the MBAs and the LLBs and all the letters after your name. That doesn't mean fuck all. What matters to people most is that you've lived it, you've experienced it, and that you can help people support through it. So if anything I've said, those 3 things, skill set, what do people ask you advice on, or if you've gone through pain and come out the other end, like I said, sometimes your purpose is right under your nose. You just need to smell it, look for it, and serve with it.
Thank you. So just before we go, how do we get hold of you? How do we give you some money for your purpose? How do we, if someone's listening and they need help, where do they find you?
So if you're watching this right now and you want to support Soch Care, you can go to the Soch Care website, which is sochcare.org, or you can go to our Instagram page, or you can follow my Instagram page, Harj Gahley. I'm omnipresent, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, or you can email me, harj@sochcare.org, which is SOCHCARE.org. sochcare.org, and I'm one phone call away, one email away. And yes, me personally, I do respond back to every single person that reaches out.
Thank you. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
And thank you for having me, and thank you for everything that you do and for the people that you serve with in Founder in the Chair.
Thank you, Harj.